How's it going, team? This is the Brown Man. I hope all is well. We gotta talk about my boy Freddy. I've been playing Dead by Daylight for quite some time. I played Dead by Daylight, I believe, a little bit before Leatherface dropped, and there's been some ups and downs. And one of the characters that arguably had a lot of ups and downs is Freddy. My boy Freddy. Initially came into the game uh, as someone who actually couldn't interact with survivors. So he would have to actually tag someone to put them to sleep, and then he would be able to actually damage them once they fell asleep after 7 seconds or something a little bit shorter according to your add-ons. When it came to Freddy, survivors who were asleep, they did actions 50% slower, a little bit slower with extra add-ons like chains and whatnot. And of course, something that was common would be using Dying Light. Dying Light actually slowed survivors' actions down when the obsession was killed. So combining that with the natural sleep, and if you want, Remember Me to add 32 seconds back in the day to opening the door along with sleep, allowed the door opening to be over a minute and a half, going on 2 minutes to open the door with no ed, was pretty interesting. So at first, you couldn't heal survivors off the floor. You had to kind of wake him up first. I believe you had to wake him up first. But he was quick patched, and when you healed someone off the floor, they also woke up at the same time. That was back in the day. When it came to Freddy, when he dropped, there was no HUD for falling asleep. That was that was an oversight to the devs. So people couldn't actually tell who was awake or who was asleep, especially when it came to people who weren't on comms. They just couldn't tell. You walk up to somebody and then, you couldn't wake each other up. That was bad. There was a rework a couple years later where Freddy, now similar to how he is now, he could teleport, he can put slow down pools, right? But what happened was, after that rework, his power got nerfed and his add-ons got nerfed. So they removed the slowdown from the add-ons. Man, we gotta get into that. So Freddy's power is outdated. The sleep mechanic is very outdated just because it's not very effective. If the sleep power was more effective, then the wake up would be justified. But his power is not more threatening than Clown's. The Clown's power is far more threatening, and he can use it on any survivor at any time. Freddy can only use his power on awake survivors. When survivors are awake, they can also be immune to being put back to sleep if they woke up using the clock. So that is something that really holds them back. So even if let's say there's a survivor, the survivor's on death hook, you can hit them, and if they have the little clock immunity, even if they run into a place that you have fully trapped, they cannot set anything off because they're awake. This puts Freddy at quite the disadvantage. Even in small loops where his power, if they work, it'll be able to easily break that loop if a survivor is awake, or if they have the immunity, or both I'd say, then it doesn't do anything. I don't know of any other killer, maybe I'm overlooking it, but I don't think there's any other killer that has that kind of immunity from just a survivor's power right off the bat. There are some trap killers that they need to set traps and then they can run into it, but Freddy needs to not only trap, but the survivor needs to be in a specific state to do so. So this just, they need to remove the ability to wake up. All survivors should remain asleep throughout the entire trial. It'll add an interesting effect when you enter, and that's cool. It could be an effect that is unique to Freddy. That is fine. I think they really need to do that. I also think they need to work on some of the add-ons. His power at base, they made him slow down when he put traps down. I don't think that's bad, but the issue is you don't get much for your trap. You should, if you are slowing down, to put a trap down, then what you need to do is be able to actually aim your trap a bit further, right? Because you're slowing down. Clown does not slow down when he throws his slowdown. And he can throw it a lot further. Freddy's only thing is that he can kind of put it on the other side of a wall, but then his power glitches out sometimes. And sometimes I play and it just doesn't put down where I want it to. So it's very finicky, very unreliable, and they haven't actually tweaked it, which is very upsetting, we'll say. They increased Remember Me a little bit. It's in the middle. It was 16 seconds. It was nerfed from 32 seconds to 16 seconds. Now they brought it back up to 24. Alright, because of endgame collapse. Blood Warden is not bad. 60 seconds is cool. Fire Up is not bad either. The only thing I would say with Blood Warden is that Blood Warden should be able to be put on standby, kind of like Adrenaline. Adrenaline is on standby when someone is being carried or when someone is on a hook, and then when someone leaves that state, then they become affected by Adrenaline. Blood Warden should work, that way when the last generator is done and the survivor hooks somebody, when the exit gate is open, it will remain locked for 60 seconds. I think that would be a better change to Blood Warden. Just so that way it is consistent with the counterpart of Adrenaline. Adrenaline is a perk that directly counters Freddy. When Adrenaline activates, you will wake up. Hey, if that's how they want to do it, then they gotta hit Blood Warden and make it a little bit more fair. When it comes to Fire Up, actually the values are really fucking low. They can easily bump that up to 5 to 6%. And that's fine. The other thing too is when you go into his teleport. So Freddy can actually teleport from generator to generator. There is a bit of a cooldown, so you don't spam it, I understand. But there are two things about this. One, it doesn't show you what direction you're facing, so you can be a little snuckle-dwarfed when you teleport because you don't see it, which isn't quite fair. Survivors can see the direction that you are facing. So I believe that, yeah, you should be able to see the aura of your little warp, of your little clone. That'll be one way to help him navigate, so he doesn't have to do this weird spin shit. Also, when it comes to the teleport, he's supposed to get stronger towards the end of the game. Unfortunately, you cannot teleport at the end of the game because all generators are done. You cannot teleport to a completed generator unless you started channeling that teleport before it became completed. Meaning, he has no map pressure at the end. The whole basis of this killer is to be stronger as the game progresses, which is Fire Up, Remember Me, and Blood Warden. His power is supposed to grow as the game progresses. However, his teleportation is at an end. What I would say is actually let him be able to teleport to an exit gate. That's fine. And let his cooldown be a bit, yeah. I think that's fine. Let him teleport to exit gates. His teleport has quite the cooldown anyway, so it's not like he can spam teleports from exit gate to exit gate to exit gate. There's quite a bit of cooldown. And not only that, but there's also, once again, Adrenaline to wake survivors up. Adrenaline will, when survivors are awake, it actually makes him take longer to teleport. So there is counterplay to Freddy's teleport. It's totally fine to have him teleport from locker to locker. Oh, not locker to locker, I mean exit gate to exit gate. My bad. And I'm going to go over, of course, some of the add-ons. His add-ons definitely need some work here. So right here, the wool shirt, the sort of shirt and dress series, they're actually not bad. Increases healing or repair penalty by 4%. We have, it's the same thing, increases healing and repair skill check penalties by 4%, but it reveals the aura for 3 seconds, and this reveals the aura for 4 seconds. This needs to be for more than 1 second more. This is a higher rarity. Let this be 5 seconds, 5 or 6. I think that would be a fair trade. And the reason why it's a fair trade is just because of how they work. If they want survivors to still be able to fall asleep, when survivors fail a skill check, they wake up. Or rather, yeah, when they fail a skill check, for example, on the generator, then they wake up, unless they're using an ultra rare add-on. So make it so that way the aura is revealed for longer. So that would be my update to these dresses. The other thing too is that if they don't want to do that, that's fine. They can actually remove the aura reading if they want. The reason being is because you are getting most likely a noise notification, so you don't really need the aura reading. It's good for cutting people off. You know, maybe someone hits gen, you see where they go. You can fake a teleport right after they fail, and you can see where they go. That's totally fine. But in reality, what you can also do is just take away the aura reveal and make it so that way the skill checks, the success zones are smaller. That would be good, because that would also help. We'll make it so that way it's only on the green add-on. That way it helps encourage the failed skill check. Because once again, if you want to have it so that way survivors are unaffected when they wake up, and failing a skill check wakes up, then it needs to be worth it. It needs to be worth them waking up, right? Because that means they're not affected by your power. So it needs to be decent standing on its own. Next up, we also have the block add-ons. So block add-ons will add status to those who interact with your power. So we have sheep block here, that will add blindness. Okay. We have cat block, which is hemorrhage. I have unicorn block, which is blindness again, which is not good. Why do we have two blindness add-ons? That doesn't make sense at all. It seems like they don't want to add an exhaustion add-on. Exhaustion would be a decent add-on. I don't know why they don't have it. So what they can do is actually make the cat add-on. They can make it mangled, or what they can do is they can upgrade unicorn block. They can make it so that way unicorn block is going to be exhausted. I mean, exhausted is fine for a green add-on. Clown has a green add-on. Once again, he doesn't slow down, and it adds extra hindered. Hindered is not bad either. You can do extra hindered if you want, and if you don't want to do that, is exhaustion. Clown lost his exhaustion add-on. He doesn't have an exhaustion add-on anymore, so we can make Freddy has an exhaustion add-on. That way, it's still it's slow down, but it's a little bit separate from what Clown has. And of course, we have the drawings here. That's blood points. That's a blood point add-on. Then we have here Nancy's sketch. Decreases dream projection cooldown by 2% for each survivor in the dream world. However, each survivor in the dream world, it reduces the cooldown by 15%. So the cooldown only goes up to a maximum. It's only increased by a maximum of 8%. But it is a yellow add-on, so not that bad. But then we have here Nancy's masterpiece, so that becomes 12%. Not really good for that kind of add-on. I mean, at least make it 5% extra for each survivor in the dream world. If they want to do it that way, I think that would be fine. Next up will be Garden Rake. So these add-ons will actually replace dream scenarios with dream pallets. Grants 7 dream tokens. So you'll have that, then you'll also be able to... Where are we? Right here, paint thinner. So paint thinner is similar to that, but it just reveals the auras. The issue with this is that unless survivors are purposefully slamming down dream pallets, it doesn't really matter. If someone slams down a dream pallet mid-chase, you already know where they are. You're probably already on them. The pallet doesn't make sense because it's going to break once they slam it. So it doesn't make sense. If it's a live pallet, then it would make sense to kind of be able to mind game. Right? You can mind game around the corner. But it's a dream pallet, so it breaks when you drop it. So there's almost no need for that little extra effect. So they do need to do something with that. Maybe survivors who slam a dream pallet get hindered. That would be a bit more successful, that'll be better. Because dropping a dream pallet, getting the aura revealed does nothing for a survivor who's already in chase. We're going to drop the pallet and then nothing's going to happen. But you already know where the survivor is at. Next up is going to be prototype claws. And of course, it's just like the rake. They have once again, prototype claws along with this. They're literally damn near the same thing. Just that's a little bit of extra aura reading. Just why? It does not make sense. The rope add-ons used to slow the game down. It used to slow down generators. However, survivors complain because Freddy, yeah, he is a little bit easier to play, and he scaled quite high when it comes to some survivors. So outdoor rope, the sounds of generator repairs can be heard from 8 meters away. But once again, it's while survivors are in the dream world. So if survivors are awake, it just essentially doesn't do anything. What they can do with outdoor rope is they can make it so that way it slows down generators, or what they can do is when a survivor who is asleep is downed, the generators working that you work on actually lose 1% progress or whatever percent progress, and that would be interesting because let's say we progress that to this one over here, jump rope. While survivors are in the dream world, the sounds of the grunts of pain are 50% louder. Okay, it doesn't really do much. So now it's like, okay, 1% slow down, right? 1% off when the survivor gets down, 3%. And then we have here swing chains. The sounds of the footsteps is 50% louder. That sounds cool, but while they're in the dream world. So it doesn't really matter, because if they're asleep, if they're injured, you're going to hear them anyway. So make it so that way it's 1, 3, 5. So we'll say that, or they can make it interesting, where if a survivor is asleep, right? If a survivor is asleep, then if they're working on a generator, you can see the generator. That'll be an interesting way. For example, they can make it for this Z block here. The Z block could be that. Z block is hemorrhage, but it lets healthy survivors bleed as well. Nobody uses most of these add-ons. Most of the add-ons are just completely trash. Make the survivors, if you want to keep the sleep mechanic in there, make it so that way the survivors fear being asleep. He should be strong. His power should be disproportionately strong because there is a shit ton of immunity to Freddy. He has the most immune. I don't think he could be more immune to anybody else's power just as much as him. Yeah, you have so much immunity, so much ways to not be affected by his power. His power needs to also be disproportionately strong in order to justify having that immunity, right? Pill bottle. Survivors will see the nightmare intermittently at a reduced range from 12 meters to 24. The nightmare is invisible to survivors beyond 24 meters as opposed to 32. The nightmare is invisible to awake survivors while carrying a survivor. That's supposed to help them sneak up on people, but it doesn't really matter because his terror radius is at 32. If Pill Bottle is actually not a bad add-on, just let Pill Bottle shrink the terror radius as well. So let Pill Bottle shrink the terror radius to 24. Let it match your visual distance, and this will be okay. It doesn't have to be the best add-on, but do shrink the terror radius as well. Class Photo. Class Photo is actually cool in theory, but it's not the best. So when channeling a dream projection, you can no longer cancel it. All generators will spew blood while the nightmare channels the projection. The nightmare's projection will not appear when using dream projection. So all generators will bleed and the image doesn't pop up. That's actually by itself not bad. What's holding it back is that you cannot cancel the teleport. The reason why that's bad is because let's say you just hook somebody, you're trying to scare motherfuckers off the gen, you start channeling the teleport, and wait a minute, that Meg ran right past you going for a save. Well, too bad. You can't stop anything now. You're forced to teleport. So if they remove that, honestly, yeah, if they remove that restriction, then it'll be fine. Freddy's add-ons should be once again disproportionately powerful because there's a shit ton of immunity to Freddy's power, and his slowdown is weaker than Clown's, so his power needs to be stronger. And of course, we're going to go into the 2 ultra rares. All survivors start the trial in the dream world. Failed skill checks do not wake survivors in the dream world. That is fine. The issue, another thing too, is that skill checks should not wake you up in the dream world. Survivors can wake each other up, and there's clocks. You don't need this much counterplay to Freddy. Skill checks should not be able to wake you up. Failed skill checks should not be able to wake you up at all. That would be the thing here. That way, survivors have to go out of their way. Next up is going to be Black Box. Recently opened exit gates are blocked for 15 seconds for those in the dream world. Once again, just for those in the dream world. If they want to keep it so people can go to sleep and wake up, then they need to change this add-on. They didn't make it, so that way, maybe when the last generator is done, all survivors become asleep, and that means, and they can still keep that first effect. So, and it can bypass the clock immunity. So what does that mean? That means survivors can now risk opening the door, or they can go to a clock, which helps slows down the game. Freddy's supposed to be more powerful as the game progresses, and let him have that end game slowdown. I think these changes to Freddy, it won't make him, S tier, but it'll definitely make him a lot better than what he is now. He is, once again, an easy killer to play, so he needs to scale appropriately. So let him scale higher, but his add-ons shouldn't be ridiculously powerful, but they do need to be decent enough so that way when survivors are asleep or when they are awake, there is a disproportionate benefit for Freddy, right? Because there's so much ways to counterplay this guy and be immune. If you can be immune to someone's power, then their power needs to be disproportionately strong to justify any form of immunity. So we'll see how that goes. Those are my proposed changes for Freddy. I'm not a super DBD expert, but Freddy is my main character. And yeah, I get duped, and I'm not the best killer, but I'll keep playing Freddy because that's my boy. Let me know what you guys think. You guys be safe, stay hydrated, and of course, have a good one.